Hello, welcome to Wednesday Live with Anton Gunn. I'm so excited about being with you. It's 2 p.m. East Coast time, 11 a.m. Pacific. For all those in the Central Time Zone and the Mountain Time Zone, it's time to get in where you fit in. Now, for the last two sessions that we've had, and if you go back and look at the video from last week and the week before, I've been talking about how to achieve your professional goals. I know you got 20 years in the game. I know you have been at the highest levels already in the organization, but I'm also clear that you're not done yet. You haven't achieved the impact that you want to achieve. You may not even achieve the goals that you want to achieve. You might even thought that you would be much further along in your career than you are right now. There's no robbery in that. I mean, literally, there's so many people who are in the same boat. They expect it to be at one level at this point in their life and their career, but they're not there. They feel stuck. They feel stagnated. They feel like they've made some mistakes along the way and don't know what a good next step is. They're not really clear on the pathway to what they deem their perfect success. So for the last 2 weeks, I've been trying to give you some mindset maintenance and some things to do to put you in a position. And so I got a lot of great feedback from last week as I talked about how to blueprint your success. I gave you some game plan that if you aren't where you want to be, if you want a title, let's say you want to become the first ever chief operating officer at your company. I'm just using that title as an example. And you've been in operations for 20 years, you've hit a director level, maybe an assistant VP level of some sort, but you're not in the C-suite. As a matter of fact, I get text messages like this all the time. I got the text message yesterday from someone who I have been advising and coaching and mentoring and help moving them along the way, that they have transitioned from one industry into another industry because they had to leave one industry to get a more senior position in another industry. And they're doing well now. They got the 6-figure salary. They're able to get that nice car that they want to have. They're leading a team. They're doing all of the things that they wanted to do. But they have this insatiable internal appetite to do more, to be greater, to be higher. And so they sent me a screenshot of a position that they applied for. The position was a C-suite position. And so I had to help them mentally calibrate around whether they're actually ready for that level of leadership and that level of operation, or is it still too soon? And their text message back to me is that I want to be in the C-suite. I'm ready to lead at that level. I got my MBA. I got professional experience. I've done all of the things that everybody said that I need to do to be in the C-suite, but I'm not there yet. And I basically had to tell them, if you were in that other industry, there is a limited pathway to get to the C-suite. But because you have transitioned into this new industry, there are multiple pathways to get to the C-suite. However, you're brand new to this new industry. And so if you're looking at the landscape of how you get to that ultimate goal, how you get to that place that you want to be as a leader, you got to understand that you can't get there overnight. You won't get there overnight. And guess what? Even if you were by some miraculous threading of a needle to get that miraculous place overnight, it's going to be very difficult for you to sustain it as a senior level leader because you don't have the longevity in the industry to know all of the ins and outs that most of the people around you know. And so you're going to make some bigger mistakes if you get that higher C-suite role, even if you're just brand new to an industry. So I had to give them that calibration. But I gave you some homework and some calibration on the last session. So I'm going to repeat some of the things that I talked about, that if you really want to achieve a goal, what I want you to understand is that it's going to take work of studying your craft. It's going to take knowledge about who does what you do at the highest level, who actually is in a job that you want to have right now. So here's the example of the homework, and I'm going to tell it to you again in a way, and I hope you can get it and operationalize this. I want you to look across your industry right now, and I want you to write down on a piece of paper the title of the job that you want to have a decade from now. And I say job, it's not really a job, it's a career impact position. That's how you should think about it. You don't ever think about what you do as a job, or you shouldn't think about it as a job. You should think about it as a career impact position. A career impact position is a position where you are having an impact on that organization and on the people that you lead. And that because you are in that career position, it is having an impact on your perspective, on your leadership, your life, and your family. And so we all need to be chasing career impact positions. Stop chasing jobs. Because you know what a job is? A job is just over broke. I don't care if you do make $250,000. There are plenty of people who make $250,000 and they're still just over broke. They just at a higher level of brokenness. They got the big house, they got the big Benz, they got credit card debt, they still paying student loan payments, and their kids might even be in college or out of college, and they're paying back their kids' loans. So that $250,000, they might be making it, but they're not keeping it because they have a job, a JOB. You don't want a job. You want a career impact position. So I want you to sit down with a piece of paper and I want you to write down the title of that career impact position. What is the title of that position? It might be President and Chief Executive Officer. If that is it, I want you to write it down. It might be Senior Vice President of Strategic Operations. Write the title down. I don't know what the title is, but you know what the title is. Write the title down for the position that you want to have 10 years from now. Now, once you put that title on paper, here's the next thing that I need for you to do. I need you to document the names of 5 people inside of your industry that have that same title in your industry. So let me be clear. I'm not asking you to make up a title out of thin air of a career impact position. Don't even make it up. But I want you to find an existing title and some real life human beings who have that job right now. And I said job again, but have that career impact position right now. Write down the names of those 5 people. After you write the names down of those 5 people, let me just be clear. If you cannot name 5 people in your industry who's doing the job that you want to be doing 10 years from now, then guess what? You're not studying your industry. You're not studying your craft. You don't know what you need to know to obtain that career impact position. You don't. Because if you did, you would be able to name industry peers. So you should be able to write some down. So let me give you an example of how this operationalized for me. A few years ago, I was named one of the top minority executives in healthcare. There were 10 of us, top 10 executives, minority executives in healthcare. So when that list came out with my name on it, I knew I was one of the top 10 for that year. But I know this wasn't the first year that this magazine publication had a list of top minority executives in healthcare. So what did I start to do? Is I went back 5 years to see who were the top minority executives in this publication in 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018. And I came up with a list of people who all were at the top of the profession where I was. Now, what was I looking for? Seeing as though I was already at the supposed top. Well, I wanted to see, did anybody on those lists have a role bigger than I had? And when I say role, let's say you work at a company that has 10,000 people and you are the chief operating officer over a 10,000 person organization. You're the top dog for 10,000 people. But I want to be clear. The chief operating officer of a 10,000 person organization is not the chief operating officer of an organization with 100,000 employees. So those are two very different jobs. They got the same title, but they're two very different jobs. So I'm telling you, you should be able to know who is a person who has that similar impact position that you want to have in your career. Who is it? Write their names down. And then I also told you last week to go do some research on their biographies. Like literally source out a bio paragraph or two, 400 words or 1,000 words. I don't know how long their bios might be, but I want you to source out who are the people who literally have the same job, same career impact position that you want to have. Where did they go to school? What job did they have before they got that position? What did they do starting out? Did they transition from one industry into another? You really need to document and roadmap their pathway to their career impact position. Do you know how to do that? Can you chart out the pathway that the 5 people who have a role that you would like to have 10 years from now, can you document the pathway that they have been on? Can you do it? If you can't do it, you need to do it. But I'm telling you, if they're at a senior level, they have a biography online somewhere. They may not have a Wikipedia page. They may not have their own website like I have my own website. But what they might have above all else is that they might have been featured in an article, a magazine, an industry publication that tells a story about how they got there. And in this era of podcast interviews, they might have been interviewed on a podcast, and that host may have said, well, tell me, how did you end up in this role? Did you always want to work in banking and finance? Did you always want to work in healthcare? Whatever the industry is, you might find that person who has a career impact position being interviewed on a podcast, and you can learn their entire life story by hearing them tell it to someone and they didn't tell it to you. I want you to document that. Why? Because I told you last week, success leaves clues. You should be able to see in 5 different biographies, what are the things that these individuals have in common? What have they done that are similar? Some of them may have even worked inside of the same organization before. Some of them may have gone to the same schools. They might be members of the same trade associations or professional associations. They might have gone to the same conferences year over year. They will share a similar story. Your job is to document what is similar. Your job is also to look at what makes each one of them unique. What is the thing that this person has that none of the other 4 have? What's the thing that this person has that's completely different from the other 3? Document what's different. And I want you to put all of that down in the same notebook, the same journal, so you can keep this information, because we're going to blueprint a roadmap for you to achieve your success. So once you know the industry, you know the 5 people, you know their titles, you know the title you want to have, and you also know their roadmap and their story, you got to go to the most important step. And that is to talk to those people. Now, here's why you want to talk to 5 people who are doing the role that you want to be doing 10 years from now, is because there's so much stuff that might be in the bio that you never really know the real story behind. Or more specifically, there might be stuff that is not in the bio that really is the story of how they got to that role. See, the bio that people put online is very much like the photos that you post on Instagram. You've edited them, you've cropped them, you've cleaned them up, you took the blurriness out of it, or maybe you deleted the first 4 versions of it until you found the right version. They're the edited, pristine, clean version. That's what a bio is. You read my bio, it is a clean, crisp version of how I summarize my life experience into 250 words. But we all know that each one of us is much more than 250 words. So I'm telling you, you have to have a conversation with this person about their journey. Let me give you an example. I got a phone call today from a gentleman who wants to be a speaker. He doesn't want to be a professional who sometimes speaks. He wants to be a speaker, a professional speaker. And so he asked me, Anton, could you tell me your story about how you became a speaker? And because I had a little bit of time, I was happy to have the conversation with him. And so he was totally surprised that my speaking journey didn't start on corporate stages in big industries with big fees, that my speaking journey started in a 5th grade classroom when my mother was the teacher of that class. See, my mom was a teacher in an inner city school. She taught at Bowling Park Elementary in Norfolk, Virginia. She also taught at Tidewater Park Elementary in Norfolk, Virginia. These are inner city public housing community schools. Most of the people in there in poverty, free or reduced lunch, just a tough environment to get an education in, not because of the teachers, but because of the distractions in the community. And so my mom said, Anton, I want you to come and talk to these 5th grade students about your journey in football. She wanted me to tell them some football stories about how I became captain of the football team so these kids would look up to me. She assumed that these young kids would look up to me. And so I'm telling the gentleman, this is a story about how I got started. Well, you will never read in my bio that my first failure as a speaker is that I couldn't get 20 5th graders to pay attention to me. Yes, Anton Gunn, big stage leadership consultant and speaker who speaks all across the country and across the world, at one point in time couldn't get 20 5th graders to pay attention to me. That is where my journey began as a speaker, and that was the biggest failure that I had as a speaker. Out the gate, my first time speaking, I bombed in front of 20 kids. They weren't even trying to pay attention to me. They were climbing off the walls, laughing, joking, hitting each other. They were doing everything but listening to the guy at the front of the room. But I told this gentleman on the phone my recovery story, which is I asked my mom, could I come back and talk to them a few weeks later? And when I came back a few weeks later, I wore my football jersey. And I started showing them the images of why I was qualified to be in front of them. Now, I didn't want to get sidetracked talking about my story, but I want you to understand that when you sit down and interview the people who you want to be like from a career impact perspective, you're going to hear some stories like that. You're going to hear about the things that really made them who they are today. That's the most important thing that you need to learn if you want to achieve your goals, is you got to learn the lessons of failures, the mistakes, the challenges that people have, and not see the pristine, crisp resume or bio that they have on the company's website or that they may have, floating around online on LinkedIn. You need to see the muddy stuff, because the muddy stuff is the stuff that you're going through right now. The muddy stuff is the reason why you don't have the career impact position that you thought that you would have at this point. The muddy stuff is what you need to learn. See, when you make a decision to put that title on paper, research 5 of the people that have the title, document their bios, what they have in common and what they have different, and you make a phone call or an email outreach to sit down with that person, it is going to change your life. It's going to crystallize for you what is possible on your journey. It won't be before that. I mean, you might think you got it because you know the title that you want to have, or you've seen the person's office, you've seen the C-suite, or you've seen the car that they drive, or the suits that they wear. You've seen all of that stuff. So you think, hey, they got it, I can have it. You can't have it if you don't know the journey of what it took to get there. You won't have it if you don't understand the failures, the faults, and the mistakes that those leaders made on their way to that role. Because every leader has some failures and some faults and some mistakes on that road. You need to know that you're having those mistakes right now. But the quickest way to recover from those mistakes is to be able to course correct because you know where you need to go. And the only way you know where you need to go is by having a blueprint, a game plan, and a roadmap. And those 5 people that I'm telling you to research, those 5 people whose bios I'm telling you to look up, they actually have the blueprint and the roadmap for where you want to go. They do, because they've done it. And guess what? If you have the right conversation with them in the right way at the right time, they might be at a point in their career where they say, you know what? I'm only going to be here for another 3 or 4 years, and I'm looking to transition out. And you're the first person who've ever done research on me like this and came to ask me about my path to this role. Are you interested in maybe replacing me one day? Because if you are, I'm willing to help you, mentor you, and support you in that path. See, that is the lesson that I learned on my way to my first chief executive role. That my mentor who helped me to get there was the person who had the job 5 years before I did. It's all because we had a conversation. So I'm telling you, you need to do this homework. If you want to achieve your goals, the ultimate career impact position, I don't care how high you think you are now, there's a role bigger and better than the one that you have. And you need to have that impact. You deserve to have that impact. But you got to do what is required to get there. So I hope this session has been meaningful to you to help you to understand where the pathway will lead. It will lead to the outcome if you back in and blueprint where you're trying to go. So I want to thank you for your time and your attention. I hope this has been valuable to you. If it has, will you please share it with someone? Share this video, like it, click it, subscribe to everything that I'm putting out, and then share with as many people as possible, because I want to make sure that you achieve your goals for you, but you also achieve my goal, which is helping you to become a leader that everyone will admire, and we can build a world-class workplace culture together. Thank you for your time. Have a great day.